Revealed. How my $83 million secret transformed my son's wedding into a life-changing moment. Mike stood quietly in his garage, the steady hum of the old fluorescent lights melding with the scent of motor oil and metal. At 52, he was a humble auto mechanic in Maplewood, a town known for its closeness and comforting Sunday potlucks. Every Saturday night, while others prepared elaborate meals for the following day, Mike savored the simple joys of fixing cars, a task that filled him with pride. He didn't earn much, but with his wife and son, Jake, he learned the real value of love, hard work, and family. With Jake's wedding fast approaching, Mike beamed with pride as he watched his son prudently save for the special day. Each dollar tucked away was a symbol of their shared values, a reminder that true happiness lay in love, not extravagance. As discussions of the modest ceremony swirled around the dinner table, Mike felt content in their steadfast approach. But then everything changed. A stroke of unexpected luck catapulted him into a world of unimaginable wealth, a whopping $83 million, a result of an investment that had prospered overnight. Initially, the surprise felt like a dream. But soon, the weight of the secret burrowed deep in Mike's heart. How could he share this fortune without overshadowing the values he'd instilled in Jake? He wanted to preserve the essence of hard work they had always lived by. As the wedding day drew closer, Mike's chest tightened with anxiety. Whispers of plans for a simple wedding turned into a silence filled with unspoken tension. He kept his fortune hidden, but desperately wanted to share it in a way that honored their past. The chaos began when Jake stumbled across a document in Mike's toolbox revealing the astonishing sum. Shadows of betrayal swept over him, shaking the foundations of everything he believed about his father. Feelings of anger and confusion churned violently within him. Was their life a facade? Was love just another commodity to be traded for newfound riches? In a misguided attempt to mend the rift, Mike suggested transforming the wedding into a grand event, a colorful celebration that would showcase their newfound wealth. But instead of winning over Jake, it backfired spectacularly. The tight-knit community of Maplewood was stunned. Whispers floated down the streets, eyes widened in disbelief. They had always respected this family for their integrity, and Mike felt the heat of judgment rise like fire in the pit of his stomach. To make matters worse, tensions peaked during a town event, where Mike found himself standing before the town, heart pounding as he faced his neighbors. This isn't about wealth, he started, his voice shaky but determined. Family love, these are what matter. It's about what we built together through struggle. He could feel their stares, questions swirling like bees around him. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach seriously. It makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Jake stood nearby, torn between the father he knew and the man now shrouded in wealth. The air crackled with tension, and belief hung in the balance. Mike's words echoed in the silence, reminding them all of the real treasures: companionship, forgiveness, and honesty. Yet the question lingered. Could familial love endure betrayal, or had this whirlwind of wealth irreparably changed them? As hopes melded with despair, the community leaned in, waiting, watching for a resolution that could bridge the widening gap between father and son in the echoing night. Mike took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. He scanned the faces of his neighbors, a mix of shock and scrutiny, and for a fleeting moment, he felt utterly alone. It was as if the walls of his life were closing in, and he was just a mechanic who lost touch with what truly mattered. The buzzing whispers of the crowd echoed in his ears. Was it greed? Had he let the money corrupt his values? Just then, Jake broke through the crowd, his face etched with confusion and hurt. Mike's heart sank at the sight of his son, who looked more like a stranger than the boy who had once followed him into the garage, eager to learn everything about the family trade. There was nothing he could say to ease the storm brewing in Jake's heart, but it was now or never. "Jake," Mike started, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want you to find out this way. I kept it from you because I didn't want to change what we value. You and your mom, you matter more to me than any amount of money." Jake's eyes flashed with defiance, a raw edge of hurt mingling with disappointment. "You think you're saying that we'll fix everything? You hid this from me. All this time, we could have done so much together, created memories instead of scrimping and saving." Mike swallowed hard. The silence between them was electric. In that moment, the gulf of misunderstanding felt as deep as the ocean. He wanted to reach out, to tell him how proud he was, but the words tangled in his throat. Instead, he stood rooted to the spot. In the crowd, murmurs grew louder. People weren't just spectators anymore. They were witnesses to a family unraveling before their eyes. The weight of their expectations loomed heavily on Mike, amplifying his urge to make everything right. "Let us sit down, let us talk this over," Mike urged, hoping to salvage what little connection still existed. But Jake shook his head. "No, you don't get to decide that now. You could have been honest, Dad, but you chose to keep secrets, and it feels like everything we built together doesn't mean anything to you anymore." With that, he turned, walking away from the spotlight and the flocking eyes that clung to them. A wave of despair crashed over Mike. It felt surreal to stand there in front of everyone, yet feel so small, so powerless. Was it too late to mend the fractures in their relationship? He couldn't help but fear that the wealth he'd never wanted was responsible for breaking the bond he cherished most. The night stretched out, filled with the sounds of laughter and celebration from a nearby party that felt foreign to him now. How could people dance and cheer when his son was in turmoil? Just then, a small voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Mr. Wilkins?" called out Clara, one of the town's elderly residents, stepping forward hesitantly. "What you said, it meant a lot to us. You've always been a good man. We're here for you. And maybe for Jake, too." Her eyes, warm and steadfast, offered a glimmer of hope, biting away the isolation Mike felt. "Thank you, Clara," Mike replied, his voice shaking, looking around at the faces in the crowd. Perhaps there was still a chance. Maybe this wasn't the end. Back at home later that night, Mike sat in the dark with the weight of regret pressing in. His thoughts raced. He wanted to find a way to show Jake that love was more powerful than money. The wedding could be both a celebration of love and their journey together, yet anchored in who they were. As dawn began to creep through the blinds, an idea formed. A way to reclaim their lost connection. It would take courage and humility, but Mike was ready to fight for his family. With renewed determination, he grabbed a pen and paper, crafting a plan that could honor their past while acknowledging the future. He prayed Jake would see it, that he would recognize his father's love buried beneath the chaos. But as Mike prepared to confront his son, an unexpected knock echoed through the quiet house. Who could it be at this hour? His heart raced. Would this be the moment that either bridges their divide or deepens the rift forever? Mike hesitated, the click of the door latch sounding like a thunderclap in the silence. He stole a glance at the clock. It was way too early for unexpected visits. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. "Who is it?" he called out, unsure if he wanted to hear the answer. "It's me, Dad. Jake." The voice was tinged with an edge of uncertainty that sent a bolt of concern through him. Heart pounding, Mike moved to the door, throwing it open. Jake stood there, his expression caught somewhere between anger and vulnerability. The boy who had stormed away now looked like a frazzled young man with a storm brewing beneath the surface. "Can I come in?" Jake asked, shifting his weight from one foot to another. "Of course," Mike replied, stepping aside. The dim light of the living room illuminated the furniture, but felt far from comforting. They settled on the couch. The distance between them still felt like an ocean. Mike fought to find the right words, but they hung between them like a thick fog. He could feel the weight of Jake's resentment, a palpable thing that made the air feel heavy. "I'm sorry," Mike started, his voice steady but soft. I should have. I should have been honest. I thought I was protecting you. I can see now that I just made things worse. Jake sighed, his shoulders slumping. You have to understand, Dad. It's not just about the money. It's about trust. I thought you were different. You always said family was everything. But now I feel like I've lost you. It's like I don't even know who you are anymore. The words cut deep, sharper than any tool he'd ever used in the garage. Mike felt them slice through the armor he'd built around himself. I was wrong, he admitted, crushing guilt twisting in his chest. For so long, I thought that if I could provide for you and your mom, everything would be okay. We could build a good life. But I see now that I missed all the small things. The parts that matter most. A flicker of something passed across Jake's face. Was it hope? Revenge? Mike couldn't tell. What makes you think we could just go back to how things were? Jake questioned, his voice sharper than before. I don't, Mike said, desperation edging into his tone. But I want to change it. I have a plan for the wedding. For us. Jake looked at him, curiosity sparking amidst the discontent. What do you mean? I want to take what we have, a celebration of love, and make it something genuine. Something that reflects who we are as a family. Not just a display of wealth. I want a ceremony that brings us back together. I want it to be meaningful. Jake leaned back, crossing his arms. And you think that will fix everything? No, Mike admitted, his voice cracking. But it's a start. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to show you that it's never really been about money for me. It's always been about us. For a moment, they lingered in silence, the tension shifting in the air. Mike could almost feel the gap narrowing, but it was tentative, too fragile to define yet. If we do this at LL, take a lot of work, Jake finally said, his voice quieter, more contemplative. I'm ready, Jake. I'll fight for us, Mike promised, heart racing, hoping against hope. Just then, another knock interrupted them, sharper and louder this time. Whoever it was, they were impatient. Maybe it's Mom. Jake frowned, glancing at the door. But as Mike went to open it, his heart sank again. This time, the sight waiting on the other side was unexpected, and it forced Mike to consider how many secrets were still looming over them. Mr. Wilkins, we need to talk about what you've been hiding. What could this mean for their family? More revelations awaited just outside that door. The door swung open, and there stood Rachel, the family lawyer. Her expression was grave, the usual confidence replaced with a heaviness that draped over her shoulders like a dark cloak. Mr. Wilkins, we need to talk about what you've been hiding, she repeated, her voice low but urgent. Mike felt his heart race. What do you mean? He asked, trying to mask the dread pooling in his stomach. The last thing he needed now was another confrontation, especially with Jake still trying to process their earlier discussion. Rachel stepped inside and closed the door, creating a bubble of tension around them. Jake's eyes widened as he met Rachel's intense gaze. What is going on? He asked, almost a whisper. Jake, maybe you should let us talk, Mike suggested, but Jake shook his head. No, if it's about our family, I deserve to be here. I want to know. Just tell us. His voice was steadier than Mike expected, though the crack of uncertainty lingered. Fine, Rachel said, her voice softening just a touch. I'll be direct. There have been some developments with the estate, your mother's estate, Mike. It's complicated. Complicated how? Mike's confusion deepened, mixed with an anxious anticipation. After the last financial assessment, we discovered assets that your mother had put into a trust. Assets worth over $83 million. Rachel explained, her gaze darting to Jake, watching for his reaction. 83 million? Jake echoed, disbelief lacing his words. Mike could see the wheels spinning in his head. Yes, Rachel continued, but there's more. Your mother wanted to keep this hidden for a reason. It's linked to family matters that are delicate. She wanted you to know when the time was right. Why would she hide that? What kind of family secrets are we talking about? Mike asked, a sickening feeling crawling from his gut to his throat. Rachel hesitated. There are arrangements that need to be disclosed. Conflicts that could impact the wedding and your trust in your father. Mike felt the breath leave him as Jake's expression shifted from shock to anger. Dad, what else have you been hiding? What did I know? I didn't know. Mike replied, frustration spilling over. I swear to you, I didn't know about any of this. Rachel drew in a breath, looking conflicted. The trust was meant to shield you, protect you, keep you away from certain realities. Your mother was always cautious. There's a lot tied into those funds, legal agreements and obligations. What obligations? Jake demanded, his voice trembling. Obligations that might require accounting for how money changes hands and what it could mean for the wedding, Rachel said, concern shading her words. This isn't about wealth. It's about responsibility, about legacy. The air grew thick with tension, and Mike's heart sank again. He could see the betrayal building in Jake's eyes. Legacy? Or another excuse for keeping secrets? Jake spit back, the hurt evident in his tone. What does that leave us, Dad? How we move forward from this? Together, I hope, Mike replied, desperation creeping into his voice. But Jake scoffed, pushing away from the couch as he stood up. We can't move forward if we're held back by hidden truths. Maybe being part of this family isn't what I thought. Mike reached for Jake, but he stepped back. No, don't you dare make this about me. You've kept the truth from me for so long, I need to figure out what this means. Jake, Mike called, his voice a blend of urgency and pain. He watched as Jake turned and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. Rachel sighed, looking deflated. He is hurting Mike. This is a lot for him to take in. I know, Mike whispered. But why didn't he do this? Why didn't he choose secrecy? Rachel met his gaze, her eyes softening. No, but you have a choice now. You need to find a way to bridge this gap, or it might be too late. As the weight of her warning settled in, Mike felt the walls closing in around him. Everything was unraveling, and the path to redemption felt more distant than ever. What do we do next? The stakes were rising, and time was running out. Mike stood there, feeling the silence wrap around him like a chilly blanket. Rachel's words echoed in his ears. You need to find a way to bridge this gap. He rubbed his temples as if he could physically erase the headache forming from a cocktail of confusion, anger, and regret. He had kept secret from his son, but not by choice. It was his mother's plan that had created this chasm. Where do I even begin? Mike muttered, looking at the door through which Jake had vanished. A knot tightened in his stomach as he realized that their family dynamics were more twisted than he had ever imagined. Calling out to Jake hadn't worked. If anything, it had pushed him further away. Maybe I can help, Rachel said gently, her voice breaking his trance. But you have to be honest now, Mike. No more half-truths. I didn't know the extent of it. I didn't know there was even a trust or that it was worth so much, he replied, frustration ebbing from his voice. Why would you want to keep this from him? Your mother had her reasons, Rachel replied. She feared what this information could do to your family. Just think, being thrust into sudden wealth could change anything. There's more than money at stake. It's the legacy behind it. But she didn't have faith in us, Mike said, his voice breaking. She didn't trust us to handle it. Rachel took a step closer, her resolve firm. You need to show Jake what this truly means. Open a dialogue about this trust, about your mother's intentions. Maybe she left clues, things he should understand about her and you. Clues? That hadn't crossed Mike's mind. It felt like a glimmer of hope. Maybe if we can find her letters, something she wrote explaining all of this. Yes, Rachel encouraged, her excitement palpable. Let us dig deeper. You might uncover things that can heal this rift. But remember, this journey will require both of you to face the truth together. And if he can't see it that way, Mike asked, panic creeping into his voice. What if he just stays angry? Let it be angry at first. It's part of the process, Rachel said. Trust takes time to rebuild, especially when it feels shattered. But the heart knows how to forgive if given the chance. Mike glanced at the door again, the thought of Jake's anger making him ache. I just don't want to lose him. I know I've made mistakes, but I want to be his dad again, to be there for him. Then start now, Rachel said with conviction. Take the first step towards understanding. Reach out to him, invite him back in. The conversation can't wait. Taking a deep breath, Mike nodded. Okay, I will. I'll find a way to explain everything. I just hope he'll listen. Rachel smiled softly. You'd be surprised what love can do, even when there are scars. But remember, it's not just about explaining. You also need to hear him. Be ready for whatever he needs to say. Right? Mike whispered, the gears in his mind clicking into place. The need to find those letters burned within him as he glanced around the room, the memories flooding his thoughts. He'd have to sift through the past, both the family treasures and the bitter secrets. "Thanks, Rachel," he said, feeling a bit of the weight lift, if only slightly. "I'll get started." As he exited the room, new resolve filled his veins. But a question nagged at the back of his mind. What if there were things hidden deeper than money? Things about his mother that would change everything for both him and Jake? Steeling himself, he walked toward the hallway, knowing one critical truth. Some secrets would shake the very foundation of their family. Would Jake be ready for those revelations? Mike's heart raced as he stepped into the dim light of the hallway. Each step felt heavy with the weight of uncertainty. He could still feel Rachel's faith in him echoing in his head, urging him forward. The urgency to mend fences with Jake surged through him like a rush of adrenaline, igniting a flicker of hope among the turmoil. He found himself standing in front of Jake's closed bedroom door, his mind sorting through the tangled jumble of thoughts. Would Jake even want to talk? The doubt felt like a lead weight. Placing a hand on the door, Mike paused, inhaling deeply. He remembered Jake as a little boy, the way they used to spend weekends building Lego towers and playing catch in the yard. Where had that boy gone? "Please, just a moment," he whispered, half to himself. Taking a step back, he decided it was time to invade the past. He turned towards the small home office that had seen better days. The clutter was a reflection of turmoil, but amidst the scattered papers and dusty artifacts from a life once lived, he believed lay the answers. The room smelled of old leather and faint hints of dust. As he began sifting through boxes, the memories washed over him like a gentle tide. "Why did you have to hide everything, Mom?" he murmured as he opened a box filled with family photographs. Each picture told a story, a snapshot of happier times when family gatherings brimmed with laughter and love. He flipped through them, allowing the joy of the past to remind him of what they truly shared. But alongside the joy lay shadows of secrets that curled like smoke around the edges. His fingers brushed against a stack of letters, their corners yellowed with age. It was as if they were calling out to him, beckoning to be read. He pulled them out, each envelope snug with memories that felt both comforting and chilling. "Here it is," he said, excitement and fear mingling in his voice as he tore open the first one. The handwriting was unmistakable. As he read, the weight of her words squeezed his heart. "Dear Mike, I'm leaving you something that I can't explain in one sitting. It's more than money. It's about trust and the chains that keep us anchored." Each sentence unraveled a thread of understanding he hadn't anticipated, pieces of a puzzle starting to form. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the hallway. Mike's breath caught in his throat. Turning, he found Jake standing there with his arms crossed, his expression a mix of hesitancy and resolve. Finding the courage he didn't know he had, Mike called out, "Jake, can we talk?" Jake hesitated, the hurt in his eyes evident. "Talk? About what? About the lies? The things you've kept from me?" Mike's heart sank deeper, feeling the fire of resentment. "Yes, but I also want to explain why. Your grandmother, she had reasons, Jake. I found some letters. Please come and see." Jake shifted uncomfortably, the tension palpable. "Letters? What do they say? They might help us understand." "They might help you understand me," Mike pleaded, hoping for just a sliver of connection to rebuild upon. Jake's expression softened, curiosity wrestling with his anger. "Okay, but I'm not making promises." Mike felt a glimmer of hope as his son stepped into the room. The distance between them shortened, though the path ahead remained uncertain. "Don't worry, I just want to show you the truth," Mike replied, feeling lighter. As he laid the letters across the desk, he wondered if they were just the beginning. Would uncovering these secrets truly bridge the gap, or would it serve only to widen it further? An uneasy sense lingered in the air, and he could already sense they were on the verge of something monumental. Together, they held the pieces that could change everything. But as Mike looked into Jake's eyes, he felt the nagging fear. What if the truth was more than they were ready to handle? Jake picked up the first letter, its edge crisp with age. For a moment, He examined the handwriting as if it were an uncharted place, one that might give him insight into his mother he didn't know he wanted. Mike watched him, each second dragging as he waded through anxiety. Is this really going to explain everything? Jake's voice broke the silence, laced with skepticism. Not everything, but it can help, Mike replied, daring to hope that this small exchange could spark something, not forgiveness, perhaps, but at least understanding. With a reluctant nod, Jake began to read. Mike held his breath, bracing himself for Jake's reaction. Curiosity danced in Jake's eyes, followed by flashes of recognition. A frown etched itself deeper as he came across details he never envisioned: family struggles, sacrifices, things his grandmother tried to protect him from. "Why didn't you ever tell me any of this?" Jake finally said, his voice barely a whisper. The hurt and confusion bubbled to the surface, and it pained Mike to see his son grappling with the weight of secrets. "I thought I was protecting you," Mike replied, the dissonance between intention and impact slicing through him. "I thought knowing would what? Make it easier? You thought keeping me in the dark was better?" Jake snapped, frustration spilling over. "No, I was complicated. Your grandmother wanted to shield you from our reality." I agreed. Jake slammed the letter down on the desk. "So what? I get to learn the truth like this? Like I was just some kid who wooed to understand?" "No, Jake." Mike stepped forward, determined to bridge the distance that still felt miles apart. "I wanted to protect you from my mistakes, from the chaos. But now I see it was a choice. I failed to let you in." The air felt thick with unspoken words. Mike wanted to reach out, to place a reassuring hand on Jake's shoulder, but fear anchored him in place. "What else do those letters say?" Jake asked, his anger still simmering but curiosity tugging at him. "I only read a fraction. I believe she spoke about our lineage, the challenges we faced. It's all tied to her decisions," Mike said, hesitantly, taking another letter. "Mom believed that truth can either bind us together or tear us apart." As Mike unfolded the next letter, the weight of grief enveloped them both. This was an emotional excavation, and he was scared of what might emerge from the depths. Each line felt like a thread unraveling, pulling up memories buried so deep that Mike had long since forgotten. Then Jake interrupted, his voice steady now. "And where do we fit in all of this? What if the truths lead us to more lies?" "I don't know," Mike admitted openly. "But right now, I want to share what your grandmother wanted for us. Let us figure it out together. I don't want to lose you over this." Those words hung heavy, vibrating in the air between them with palpable tension. "Okay," Jake sighed, seeming to accept the challenge. Let us see what she wanted us to know as they dove deeper into the letters, unraveling not just the ink, but an entire history of family struggles and victories. An unexpected warmth began to creep back into the room, a flicker of unity igniting between them. But lingering behind that warmth was something heavier. As they turned to another letter, Mike felt a shadow creeping in the back of his mind. What if this history they were uncovering forced them to confront truths neither of them was ready for? And just as the next letter was opened, the phone rang. Both men froze, their hearts pounding as they exchanged a glance. Who would be calling at a moment like this? And could it change everything they had begun to learn? The phone's shrill ring sliced through the tense atmosphere like a knife. Mike's heart raced. Who could it be? Jake's eyes widened in uncertainty. The letters lay between them, vulnerability spilling out with each opened envelope. "Answer it," he urged, though his voice wavered. Mike hesitated. What if it was someone from the past? Someone who could turn their fragile moment into chaos? But he forced himself to pick up the receiver. "Hello, Mike. Thank God I reached you." A voice crackled through, frantic and familiar. It was Lucy, Mike's sister. "You have to come quick. It's about Mom. Something has happened." Jake's entire demeanor shifted at those words. The warmth they had just felt turned to ice. "What's wrong?" Jake demanded, his fists clenching on the edge of the desk. "Just come to the hospital. I can't explain everything over the phone. Just get here," Lucy urged, her voice trembling. Before Mike could respond, Jake had already begun to head for the door. "Let us go." His instinct drove him towards the unknown. Mike followed, his mind racing with worry. What could possibly have happened? He just opened Pandora's box of family secrets, and now chaos beckoned at the doorway. In the car, silence reigned. Jake stared out the window, his face a mask of vulnerability that cut deeper than the anger from earlier. Mike shifted in the driver's seat, glancing at his son. They had been on the brink of discovery, yet now they navigated this flicker of uncertainty together, a tightrope walk over a canyon of family history. "What do you think happened?" Jake finally asked, pulling Mike from his swirling thoughts. "I don't know," Mike admitted. "But whatever it is, we'll face it together." The drive felt endless, each traffic light extending the tension as if the universe was freezing the moment just to let them simmer in uncertainty. Mike could feel sweat prickling at his temples, the weight of impending doom clouding his thoughts. When they finally reached the hospital, the stark fluorescent lights felt almost too bright, piercing through the shadows that lingered. They rushed to the emergency room, the smell of antiseptic and anxiety mingling in the air. Lucy was waiting, pacing nervously. "She's in surgery," she said, her voice strained. "It's complicated, but the doctor said she took a fall. We need to be prepared for the worst." "What do you mean, the worst?" Mike asked, fear creeping up his spine. He had dealt with loss before, but this was different. This was the woman who held their family's secrets in her hands. "Mom, she didn't want us to worry, but she was sick." Lucy's voice cracked. Jake's breath hitched, his entire frame tensing. "What did she hide?" "It was something serious, Jake. She never wanted you to know. She wanted to keep you out of it, to protect you." In that moment, all the letters, the history they had been unraveling, seemed to collide with the present, each truth, each struggle, pointing toward this inevitable moment. Mike squeezed Jake's shoulder. "Whatever happens, we're in this together," he said, his own doubts swirling. They stood at the precipice of grief before even knowing if it was confirmed. Yet somehow, the unearthing of secrets brought them closer, making them ready to face whatever came next. As they waited, time stretched endlessly. Jake broke the silence, looking straight at Mike. "Do you think this is where our understanding ends, or where it truly begins?" Before Mike could respond, the door swung open and out stepped the doctor, grim-faced and serious. "We need to talk." The unspoken heaviness of that moment made their hearts plummet, and they stepped forward, ready to confront whatever revelation awaited them. The doctor's expression didn't leave much room for optimism. Mike felt his stomach twist as he braced for the words that would change everything. "I'm Dr. Williams," the doctor began, and the way he glanced back at the surgical doors gave Mike pause. "Is she okay?" Lucy interrupted, her eyes wide with desperation. "What happened? Is she going to be all right?" Dr. Williams took a deep breath. "Your mother suffered a severe head injury from a fall. We managed to stabilize her." But he hesitated, gauging their faces. "She's in critical condition. There could be long-term effects." Jake's knuckles tightened against Mike's shoulder. "Long-term effects? Like what? What are you saying?" His voice was rising, tinged with fear and frustration. "We'll do everything we can, but I cannot guarantee that she'll fully recover," the doctor said, his voice steady but kind. "You might want to consider talking to her when she's out of surgery. We can't really predict how much she will understand or what she will remember." Mike felt a wave of nausea wash over him. A part of him wanted to scream, how could this happen? After all the lies and secrets, they finally started to uncover the truth, only to find themselves facing this darkness. "Can we see her?" Lucy asked, her voice trembling. "Once she is in recovery, yes. But she'll be unconscious for some time," Dr. Williams said, his eyes softening slightly. "I suggest you prepare for the worst." The words hit like a freight train. Mike stood frozen, wrestling with the enormity of it all. As he absorbed the news, he noticed Jake's face twist in anguish. Grief crashed over them like a tidal wave, and Mike wrapped his arms around his son, who absorbed the shock against him. "I can't lose her," Jake whispered, his voice breaking. "Not now. Not when we were just starting to understand each other." "There's still hope," Mike said, trying to sound firm, but his heart felt as fragile as glass. "We'll be with her. We'll make sure she knows she's not alone." As they stood there, surrounded by sterile walls, and the distant sounds of hurried footsteps, the weight of unspoken words grew heavier. The letters they had opened just moments ago felt like ancient artifacts now, a reminder of the secrets that had divided them for so long. Mike's mind raced with fragments of his mother's life, trying to piece together what he could remember from their complicated relationship. "Dad?" Jake's voice broke through, shaky yet determined. "Do you think she wanted us to know everything? About the past, the reasons, all of this?" Before Mike could answer, a nurse walked by, her expression sympathetic. "You can wait in the family room, and I'll let you know when she comes out of surgery." As they moved, a strange mix of emotions clawed at Mike: fear, anger, guilt, hope. In that quiet room, filled with other anxious relatives, the weight of unspoken truths loomed large. "Maybe she hid everything because she thought she was protecting us," Jake murmured, staring at the ground as if searching for answers in tiles. The innocence in his voice made Mike's heart ache more. I wish I could understand why Mike began, but his voice faded away. Questions chased themselves through his mind. How long had the burdens of the past held them hostage? And would they have the chance to confront them before it was too late? Just then, a loud beep from a nearby machine broke through the quiet buzz of anxiety in the room. Mike's gaze snapped towards the doorway just as the doctor appeared again, a shadow of uncertainty crossing his face. "Mike, can I see you for a moment?" Mike's heart sank. He exchanged a worried glance with Jake, who stood frozen, his eyes wide. "What's wrong?" Jake asked, stepping forward. "Why don't you wait here?" The doctor suggested. "It's about your mother. We need to discuss something important." The door closed behind Mike, and he felt a chill of dread creeping in. What was it this time? As the doctor began to speak, Mike's mind swirled with fear of what he might hear. Would it be more secrets, or something even darker that awaited them? He steeled himself for whatever revelation was about to unfold, already suspecting it would change everything again. Mike entered the small consultation room, a hard chair waiting beneath him, the stark lights overhead dimmed to an unsettling brightness. Dr. Williams closed the door, sealing them away from the noise of the waiting room. He drew a deep breath, his expression serious. "Your mother suffered significant injuries," he began. "While we were able to stabilize her, there are complications. We suspect she may have been hiding her illness for some time." "What illness?" Mike heard himself say, his heart racing. "What do you mean?" Dr. Williams paused, his brow furrowing. "Based on her medical history, it seems she was battling an underlying condition, one that could explain her fall. It's possible she didn't share this because she didn't want to burden you or Jake." As the meaning of the words sank in, Mike felt an overwhelming rush of emotions. They had been unraveling the threads of family secrets, but this felt like an unraveling of their foundation. We were just starting to understand her past, to bridge the gaps. "If only we had known." "I'm sorry," said Dr. Williams softly. "We have to prepare for the possibility that she may not come back to us in the same way." The walls of the room felt like they were closing in on him. All the letters, the history of sacrifices and struggles, now seemed insignificant compared to the palpable fear of loss. Mike's heart raced. "Does she know we're here? Does she know Jake?" "She's still heavily sedated," the doctor replied. "But when she comes out of surgery, having both of you there will mean everything to her. Family always matters, especially in moments like this." The room seemed to tilt away from him. No sooner had they begun to find their way back to each other than it felt like everything was slipping from his grasp. A wave of guilt washed over him. Had they waited too long? Had they let precious weeks of unknowing drift away? "Can I see her?" Mike asked, desperation clawing at his voice. "Yes, just give us some time to make sure she's stable," Dr. Williams said. "In the meantime, focus on being there for Jake. He'll need you now more than ever." When Mike returned to the waiting area, he found Jake pacing, tension radiating from him like heat. The look on his face, a swirl of anger, vulnerability, and fear, stopped Mike in his tracks. It was as if he barely recognized the young man standing before him. "Dad, what is going on?" Jake demanded, and for a moment, it felt like the child he had raised, looking to his father for protection. They found complications from her fall. It might have been something she hid. We need to be prepared, Jake. The words hung heavy in the space between them, a silence thick with outpouring emotion. Jake's eyes widened, reality crashing in. Prepared for what? To say goodbye? Jake broke, and Mike stepped forward. No, I can't lose her too. Not like this. The sound of Jake's pain was a dagger to Mike's heart. He felt the same surge of fear and regret tightening his chest. She has fought hard, Mike said, trying to sound strong. Yet every word felt inadequate. We'll be with her when she wakes up. She needs us, all the love and support we can give her. Jake ran a hand through his hair, shadows dancing in his eyes. That's all I want, Dad. Just more time with her to understand everything. I know. We'll get through this together, Mike assured him, fighting back his own tears. We've come so far. She'll want to see us both. And when she does, we can face all of it, the truths, the past. We can mend things. Outside the surgery room, time blended into an infinite stretch of anguish. They stood shoulder to shoulder, sharing the silence, the uncertainties merging. Each tick of the clock felt like a premonition, a reminder of all that could be lost. Finally, the door opened and a nurse stepped out, her smile gentle but cautious. She's in recovery. You can see her, but please, only for a few moments. She needs to rest. Heart pounding, Mike entered the recovery room, Jake close behind. There lay his mother, frail and surrounded by machines, but her face was peaceful. Strange, Mike thought, even in this state, she still held a grace that felt like home. Hey, Mom, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Jake stepped forward, a tentative smile breaking through tears. We're here, Grandma. You're not alone. Mike watched as Jake leaned in, his voice steady despite the quiver. We love you. When you wake up, there is so much we need to talk about. The room was filled with hope and tension. He could see the flicker of strength behind her closed eyelids, and in that moment, something truly vital shifted within both of them. Maybe this trauma could become the catalyst for all the change they needed, a chance to heal old wounds and face the future together. In that moment of uncertainty, Mike leaned a bit closer, taking Jake's hand in his own. We're going to be okay, he murmured as if trying to convince himself. This is where our story begins anew. Time passed, and soon their mother stirred, her eyelids fluttering open. For a moment, it felt like everything froze in anticipation. When she finally looked at them, it wasn't just recognition. It was connection, understanding coursing through the air between them. They were a family tangled in complexities, but there, in that pivotal moment, they were simply together, ready to confront whatever the coming days held for them all. As she blinked slowly, Mike felt the tension lift just for an instant. It was enough to breathe. They were on the brink of transformation, ready to explore the depths of their ties with roots that ran deeper than any wealth could overshadow. Mom, we've got you, he said, grounding all the unearthed secrets into that one powerful word, love. And with it, they realized they didn't just carry the scars of the past. They also held the potential for healing, standing at the cusp of a new beginning. Now is the moment of truth. You need to subscribe to this channel now to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you and your family. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, so we can keep bringing you more heartfelt narratives. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this incredible journey of transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second. Your support means everything.